All right, just to start off, because I think this is important. I don't want to drown you in information about me or anything like that, but it's important to know who you're learning from, right? We have three professors that teach in this program. Myself, Kevin Reardon, who is the former real estate center director at Rutgers University. For those of you not familiar with Rutgers, it is the State University of New Jersey. Kevin has 25 years plus experience as a real estate mutual fund manager with TIAA CREF. He also was the CEO. It actually structured and took public a real estate investment trust, which is like a mutual fund for real estate, commercial real estate. It actually rang the bell on the stock exchange and all that. I messed with him because it looks fake when you actually see it. If you see the video, I say all the time, I think he forged it. But anyway, just kidding. Our other person is Victor Matello. He is a real estate attorney. He'll be teaching the legal sections of this. They both have extensive teaching experience, 10 plus years. I myself, my background is actually came out of finance. My undergrad and my MBA were in finance. I was a bond analyst, an institutional bond analyst, which means that my firm sold bonds to banks, pension funds, money managers, real estate funds, things of that nature. And that's kind of how I got into the real estate side. When the market went down, was not doing so well in about 2008, if anybody remembers that, I decided I'd had enough of working 60 to 100 hours a week. I jokingly say I still work 60 hours a week. I'm just not in front of a computer screen all 60 to 100 hours. And I knew that I wanted to get my PhD, but the finance side of things had kind of dredged me down a little bit. Just again, not being able to leave the office, not seeing my family, things of that nature. And I started discovering the real estate side. In fact, you guys are probably ahead of me at this point in life. I didn't even take an undergraduate real estate course. I was a pure finance. So I started investing when the prices were low, and I had a little money saved up, and I thought I may want to learn something about this. So I started taking master's classes, master's level classes, kind of like what we're looking at here, a certificate program without a degree. I already have my MBA in real estate, and not real estate development, but just general real estate. And I loved the development side of it because it was half analysis, half on Excel doing time value money, valuing, and things of that nature, and the other half in the field. So you got that beautiful, in my opinion, that beautiful mix of seeing something happen physically. At the same time, I'm kind of a math geek, being an analyst. So that's the beauty of the specific real estate development master certificate. We will also see here in a minute that we are the only MBA, and I've spent years doing this research, the only online, fully online master certificate in real estate development in the country. And I'll explain the importance of that. Let me go ahead and explain that actually. It takes 6 months. It costs about $7,000 as opposed to an MS, a master's of science, which is 2 years worth of real estate development or general real estate. And you're paying $60,000 for that. So this is, and there's a lot of electives. There's only so much you can learn in real estate, everyone. So there's a lot of electives and programs like that. We are a straight line to getting the most cost-effective and time-effective foot in the door into real estate development as a project manager. And I've spent years developing this program. To wrap up kind of my background, I'm not only a professor, I got my PhD at the University of Georgia. If you go look that in real estate, if you go look that up, we were number 3 in the country when I was there. I think we're still top 5. To give you an idea, the professors always said, it doesn't matter your ranking, it matters who's around you. So right ahead of us was Wharton, University of Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, the original program, Wisconsin. And then we were ahead of NYU and Cal Berkeley. All right, so that kind of gives you the company of what you're learning. I took that program, that Penn State, Wisconsin, Georgia type of program, and made it more applied. Right, so by that I mean, well, by that I mean I thought, of course, I was getting a PhD, but even at the master's level, there was so much theory. right? The economics of everything, and that matters. Don't get me wrong. But what's the point in learning theory if you can't apply that theory to the job? For instance, I learned urban economics, how cities form, but the application of that is urban planning. I think which one of our students was talking about earlier. He wanted to do in his home country. So that's what this is, an applied practical program. Even when you learn theory, you will learn how it's applied, and you will speak to, and actually we'll have separate sessions that are recorded as well. But if you want to join in, we'll have guest speakers. Even though it's a fully online program, it's not required. We'll have guest speakers coming in from different elements of the real estate development world. And I think that's so important. Now, what are we going to do today? I'm going to cover the career paths. I'm going to show you why I created this program. There has to be demand for it, or I wouldn't be here right now. And more importantly, why it's important to you, right? As a change in career or a furthering of your career. Then I'll get into how the program structure works, the overview of the courses, things of that nature. And guys, again, stop me at any time. We don't have to wait for questions at the end. Stop me whenever you feel like. Just speak up. You don't even need to hit the little hand raise thing. I'm open to whatever. And then we'll talk about how to apply, because you're going to want to apply because it's with me. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Now, I am a pretty popular teacher, just so you know. All right. So, April, can you back that up?
Yes, he is.
All right, we try to keep it light here. Now, as far as employment, why real estate development matters, average employment growth in the United States in the most high-end sectors is still around 5%. Over the last 25 years, it's been 7% in real estate. So that's 2000, just 1998, really around 2000. So that's the ups, the big downs, and the up again. And now we're kind of in a downward mode, right? So just like stocks or bonds, you get these market cycles where you have ebbs and flows, the good, the bad, the good, the bad. And we discussed that as well. So along with this, real estate development will also teach you property management. Because if you're going to be a developer, you're not just going to develop and sell the properties, which is the way things used to be done up through the 90s. Now you develop and you own and you manage your own properties, right? So the difference in just buying a property and managing it, you're talking about 6 to 8% return a year before taxes, and there are tax write-offs, which will up that yield. But with a development project, you're usually talking around 15 to 25% year return on that project. Okay, that's why. Because think of it this way: you're taking, just like building and making a car. You have steel, you have electronics, things of that nature, the rubber for tires. And it's worth something on its own. But when you put that all together, it's worth a lot more. It's the same thing with constructing a commercial building, whether it's an apartment complex or a mall or an office building or mixed use or whatever, or a government building. That wood, that steel, the electronics to go into it, the framing, all of that. It may cost me $100 million, but in the end, when it's done, it's worth 150 million, 130 million, something along those lines. So that's why you want to be on the development side. This is really like the investment banking of real estate. It's the most, I'll be quite honest, it's the riskiest, but it's by far the most profitable area of real estate there is. And don't forget, guys, the vast majority of people's wealth in the world is in what? Real estate. Not stocks, not bonds. I can tell you the next bond analyst. Everybody talks about the stock market because it's a physical market and it looks pretty. And, you know, people yelling in the background, it's exciting on CNBC, right? Or Bloomberg television. Is there a bond market, like a physical bond market? Anybody know? Feel free, you got a 50-50 chance, yes or no. Is there a physical place that people trade bonds? No, there isn't. It's called an over-the-counter market. But if I took the dollar volume on any day and all the stock markets around the world, it wouldn't be 1/4 of what the bond market trades dollar volume every day. And if I took the real estate markets, they are 10 times bigger on any given day. The dollar volume running through all the real estate markets in the world, transacting through Wall Street, banks, things of that nature, is 10 times that. 10 times of the bond market. So it eclipses everything. I tell all my undergraduate students, if you want to be in investment banking, you're more than likely going to end up on the debt side. And what are you going to be dealing with? Real estate debt. So to get back to it, you can see the numbers of jobs, kind of our average salary is around 87 grand a year starting versus about $37,000 a year. And by the way, guys, that's not even talking about the certificate. My students are coming out of Montclair State making an average of about $72,000 a year as undergraduates. That the average, I think, coming out of the School of Business, April, do you know, I think it's around 52
Right.
undergrad. So my students are making about $20,000 more than the average. Business, that's not overall people coming out, business student coming out of our school specifically. Now, what are the career paths, so to speak? So from bottom up here, development analyst is kind of your entry level. What I'm doing with this program, this is kind of helping you skip development analyst and go to project manager, which starts out around $80,000, $89,000 a year. Let me say this: bonuses matter in this industry. When I was a bond analyst, if I was doing a good job, 20% of my salary was base, 80% was bonuses every year. So this isn't, it's a wide range. You could be making anywhere from 65 to 265 a year as a project manager. You never know. So it just depends on how you do. That's the beauty of this game, right? It's about work ethic and training. The next step will be director of development and then real estate developer. Now this is misleading. Real estate developer, 152,000. That's somebody usually working in a corporate environment. So like Marie, you see that title out there, right? 150, 250, 350, somewhere in there in a corporate setting. If you're your own developer though, it's a much different game. It's more of an entrepreneurial business. So the point of this program is to get you in right here at project manager. Okay, starting around 89 or so. Remember, that's average. So it is a very, very difficult job to obtain entry level. And that's the reason I created this program. I had so many people coming to me at different meetings like International Council of Shopping Centers, NAOP, National Association of Industrial and Office Properties, that were younger or wanting to make a career change or whatever, that said, I really want to do this, but I can't do it. I can't spend $60,000 over 2 years. And the problem is nobody wants to. I've been in the industry 5 years as a property manager or on the nonprofit side or whatever else. Nobody still wants to take a chance with me on the development side. Marie, can you tell me why that is at all? Why you think maybe working in the industry a little bit?
Why developers won't hire the project managers?
So developers hire the project managers. Why don't developers really want to take a chance on somebody that doesn't have experience? How do you get the experience as a project manager if nobody's going to work with you?
Right. You need that hands-on experience.
You need that, number one, you need that hands-on experience, but they're not willing to give it to you. You know how hard it is to get an internship in project as a project manager or as a development analyst? Because it's so hands-on, guys. They have to literally step you through everything. And what if you leave after a year or two? Then they've just wasted 2 years on you, right? You're not really useful to them your first 2 years in that position. They're just training you. You see why they're scared, the developer is, to bring you in as a project manager without experience? This circumvents that. This, even though it's a certificate or wherever you want to get the MBA eventually, this says I have that level of knowledge. And not only that, I learned from Dr. Nicholson, who does work for the state, for mutual funds, my last project is the Department of Environmental Protection. Before that, it was LaFrac, who has the largest apartment complex in the 5 boroughs of New York. Okay, so a lot of kids, my undergrads, get their jobs because of my consulting experience. But this says I have that knowledge. What you're going to learn and we kind of went through this already. But what you're going to learn are really three things, or four. A development project needs to be three things. Legally feasible. Does the law allow us to do what we need to do? That's zoning, that's height of the building, that's environmental studies, things of that nature. Physically feasible, again, kind of ties in with this. Zoning, et cetera. I give you an example. We were looking at a project across from this place called this zoo up here in called Turtleback Zoo in New Jersey. And it was a famous historic kind of restaurant. And everything looked great, but there was a drainage issue after running all the numbers. There was a drainage issue that it was in a flood zone. And if we wanted to fill the drainage area in, because we wanted to build 8-story multi-purpose, right? So apartments, retail, maybe a little office, things of that nature. And everything looked great. That's when you get scared, when it looks too good to be true. And we ended up not being able to do that because it would have caused flooding problems for the areas around it. Right. So it's this problem solving, right? That you have to get to. I've never seen a deal that just worked, that just happened. Right. You always end up, you're at the finalization and then something comes up. That's part of the process. So you get that legal and physical side. And then the third one, which takes more time than anything, the financial feasibility. Running the numbers in Excel and learning how to financially model in Excel, which gives you the most advantage out of anything, because it takes more time to train somebody on that says this project does or does not work. If we have to change this one little thing, it doesn't work. If we can manipulate that one little thing a little bit, the project still works. So that ties together the legal and physical feasibility, plus bringing in your investors and bringing in the bank or the private equity people. So the young man I was speaking to before everybody got here, Samar, are you still there? I think he had to go early. He's from Nepal, or he's in India right now, but he's from Nepal. He's talking about he wants to help develop his country, right? So I said, well, that's different kind of financing. That isn't a bank. That's venture capitalists. That's expensive money. But I've worked with that too. In the Dominican Republic, we're dealing with an issue there right now with utilities, trying to restructure their utility setup. And I'm just running the numbers for that bond issuance. So getting to the point. I know I ramble on, guys. Sorry. What you're going to do, other than that fourth element, learning about the process of being a project manager, we're going to start you out actually down here. We've changed the structure a little bit with 572. You would take an 8-week course in commercial real estate investment and analysis. This is pure finance. I take you guys have hopefully heard of time value of money, like financial modeling. I'd start every one of you out as though you've never seen it. I don't care if you've been working with it for 10 years or you've never seen it. Everybody has to get on the same page before we can really work as a team, because this is a team effort. When you go through your cohort, guys, you will be working together eventually in the end on an actual development project, which we'll get to in a minute. So that's the financial feasibility. And quite frankly, that's probably the most difficult course. So we start you off pretty rough, and then it gets easier as you go along, I guess the best way to put it. That way you don't waste your money either, right? If you can't hack it in the beginning, save some money. All right, now then what we do, so that would start out the first 8 weeks of fall, starting this fall. The second 8 weeks, so that's a 3 credit hour. You'll do 2 1.5 credit hour. So there's less work in each of these. Like these 2 courses combined, 570 and 571, they have the same amount of work as 572 total. Okay. So you're still doing 3, you're doing 1 course basically worth of work. That's real estate finance. So that's the banking aspect, the capital markets, which would be, Wall Street, financiers, private equity, different structuring, and how to do the pitches and how to deal with these different entities. In the end of every class, you're going to be doing a pitch of some sort. It's not, now, let me say this, it is fully online. It is not required. But if you want to get the most out of it, we set up a night at the end of every class where you present. So right here, you would present this to a developer, the commercial investment project. You'll do a retail, an industrial, an apartment complex, a mixed use, a office property. You'll do all of those. And then you run the cash flows for them and build out the income statements. And then in finance and securitization, now that you've learned what you need to show the bank or show you investors, you learn how the investor sees it. So you see each side of it coming together. And then you have to pitch to them, right? Explain to them why your project matters. So there's two ways you bring in money, the debt side and the equity side. The debt side's the loan, right? I'm paying 6% to borrow this $100,000. Excuse me. I'm recovering from COVID. I apologize, guys. But you need a down payment. In commercial lending, those down payments are much larger. You may need 30% down. So now do you have $40 million sitting around somewhere? No. I mean, I don't know many lenders that do. I don't know many developers that do. And you need to bring in equity partners. They're the ones that, instead of just paying them 6%, if you're making 20%, they're making it with you, right? If you're losing 5%, they're losing it with you. It's like having stock certificates in the development project, right? Now, at the same time, you will be taking that second half, last 8 weeks of the fall, you'll be taking your real estate law course. There's general real estate law, but you will be learning more about real estate development law than anything. Construction law, land use law, violation of zoning statutes, stuff like that. So so we just went through, right? Financial feasibility with class 572, and legal and physical feasibility with 571. And then the financing aspect with 570. So I will be your instructor for 572 in the beginning. Then you have Professor Reardon and Professor Matello. And then you will wrap up with me. You will start and end with me. We'll go into real estate development the first 8 weeks of spring. So that's a total of 24 weeks, 6 months. That's how fast it is. It's a lot. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but you'd much rather do it this way than any other way, because trust me, I've been there. Okay. The development side, this is where we get to the project manager. The project manager, think of a bicycle tire. The project manager is the circle in the middle, and there's spokes coming off of that tire, right? Each of those spokes is a person that you're going to have to deal with, or an element you're going to have to deal with. Your construction manager, the city planning office, the zoning board, your financiers, your local constituents, as we love to call them. See, Marie, you've dealt with the nice people because you're nonprofit, right? Yeah, right. You know, a while back, I was at a meeting here in Montclair. We had 5 of us trying to get the deal done, and it was pretty much a go with Lackawanna Plaza, Marie, downtown. Finally getting it done. Hopefully, no, knock on wood. This is a property that's been sitting around in our town for a while. It's a real historic train station that is a retail space. It's really cool. But that gives the Historic Society wanted to argue with me or with us. They were forging research. They were forging research to hold up the process on us. So we had to hire the right consultant there to document that they were frauds. Pretty crazy. You wouldn't think stuff like that, but it happens. So my job was to come in and present how this is going to benefit the community and how it's going to enrich people's lives, and not take lower income people from that area and drive them out. So that's what that was my job, urban economist, right? We had 5 people with us on our side. There were 100 people behind us yelling at us. We don't want this done this way. I want it done this way, or I don't want it at all. And this is a property that's been run down forever, and the community needs Imagine a property that Marie can verify that. Imagine a property that isn't like that. Okay, so this is part of that process. So what we'll do in that real estate development class, you'll learn development budgets. You're actually going to do in groups a real world development project with a developer. We will have every week pretty much. We'll start out with a pre-recorded, or actually not pre-recorded. It'll be a live interview with someone that I will record in case you can't make it. Okay. But it'll be like me sitting down with that person and interviewing them about what they do. So that city, that urban, like this week in my undergraduate class, I've got the director of urban planning of Newark, which is one of the largest cities in the country, coming in to speak to my undergraduates because they're gonna have to deal with him as part of their project. The next week I have an architect coming in. Next week, somebody is a construction manager. So you're gonna learn, and then we have our nonprofit and our tax credits and things of that nature. And then we get into modular construction and the cost benefit analysis of all these things. So it's really tying everything together. And you're learning how these people that you will deal with view you as the project manager and what you need to do to keep everyone happy. So you don't have to be great at anything to be a project manager in real estate development. You don't need to be amazing. You got to be very good at a lot of things though. And you got to be well organized. All right. You've got to be able to manage your time. I tell you, my favorite students are ones. I've got a student right now who just turned 28 and he's director of development at a large firm in Newark now. And that's who we're going to do our project management with. His employers, the developers, have undergraduate degrees in architecture and master's degrees in business from Columbia University in New York. And still, they'll tell you they wish they had done something like this, more of a real estate development arm instead of a general business master MBA, because it would have helped them out so much. They'll joke around about how much money they have wasted being architects and trying to make things too fancy, right? Too nice, things of that nature. So now that everybody wants to apply, including Tim, Mr. Hart over here, graduate admissions director, it's my job to impress Tim today, by the way, and April as always. So it's a rolling admissions process. There is no specific deadline, but we will be beginning in September for the first cohort. So I would say a minimum of July, early July is when I get my application. And we already have people applying right now though. All right, we're already going through that process. You do not need, this is the big one, a GMAT or a GRE, which is, if you're not familiar, like your SAT for graduate school. So not having to take that is a big benefit, guys. This is the back doorway into that MBA, right? All right. You don't have to pay the application fee for just you're on our list now of people who are in a session like this. What we do need though, I will need your undergrad. You have to have your undergraduate degree. I need those transcripts. We want an essay of why you want to do this, what you're interested in. And that benefits you as well. Because I do this at not an essay necessarily, but I want to know what every single student is taking my class for, what their background is. That way I can gear your experience as a cohort together to the individual, but the group as well. And then I'd like to see your resume. So your admissions process is you'll run through the graduate school, they'll do a pre-screening, and then I will see them as well.